Ray, thanks. Okay. Okay, good evening and welcome to Council. Monday, May 28, 2018. Call the meeting to order at 7 p.m. As always, just remind everybody to tone down their devices and put them on silent mode and vibrate mode. Appreciate that. As always, we start off the community municipal safety share. And Nicole's not here, so we'll ask Mr. Stone, Councillor Stone, to give us a highlight of that. Parking lot safety.
Depending on its location, design, and time of day, parking lots can be risky places. Here are some basic safety principles that you can use to be safe in traveling to and from your car. Park near the building in highly visible and well-lit areas. Use the main building entrance. Avoid rear or scheduled exits. Keep valuables, including purses, recent purchases, out of sight. Always lock them in the trunk of your car if you have to leave them in the car. Lock the doors and roll up the windows once you get in your vehicle. Plan ahead, know where to go if you feel threatened and how to call for help. Try to walk with friends, co-workers, and security officers. Give your escort a ride back to the main entrance so they don't have to walk back alone. Stay on a well-lit street and in the center of the sidewalk. Stay away from hiding spots such as bushes, doorways, alleys, parked cars. Cross the road if necessary. Be alert to your surroundings. Walk with confidence. Keep your head up and look around. Trust your instincts when you feel like something's not right. Have the keys ready to unlock your door as you near your vehicle. As you approach your car, look around inside and glance underneath for people who may be present. If you are suspicious, walk away. Go to a safe place and call for help. Avoid distractions like wearing headphones, texting, digging in your purse. Be attentive. Know details regarding your location in case you need to call for help. Good,
thank you for that. Up next we have any additions or deletions to the agenda. Councillor Lake, you had one? Okay. Okay, so we'll do that at the end through announcements. Anybody else? Nothing else? Okay. Any disclosures of interest? Hearing none. Good. Do you have a motion here that Council hereby adopts the agenda for Monday, May 28, 2018, regular meeting of Council as circulated and amended? Councillor Debussy, Councillor Lake. Any errors or omission comments? Good. Call the question, all in favor? Thank you. I have a motion here from the regular meeting of Council. The minutes that were held on Monday, May 14, 2018, as circular amended. Moved by Councillor Fox, seconded by Councillor Ingrao. Any questions, errors, or omissions? Hearing none, call question, all in favor? Carried, thank you. Council reports, none from Council. Anybody else have any committee or reports? Nothing to speak of. Student Council reports. Councillor Stone?
Yep. So on June 1st, we have a transition day for the grade 8s. They'll come in, play some games, get a tour of the school. On June 8th, we have a graffiti dance. The grade 8s are also welcome. So that is on a PD day, but you just go when a regular dance starts at 8. And our school had a MAD presentations, Mothers Against Drunk Drivers, a few days ago. It's all about why you shouldn't drink and drive or get high and drive. So don't do that. And that's it.
Okay.
Oh yeah, we have a girls and boys soccer tournament coming up at Marathon High School this week on Friday and Thursday, Friday.
Good. Have you guys had any updates and any presentations on texting and driving over the last year?
No, we haven't had one this year.
Okay, maybe it's something we could put on the police service agenda to see for the fall start up again for school. Maybe there's somebody out there that can come in and do a course. We do have a little bit of opportunity maybe to fund some speaker on that, because I think that's very important for our youth in the community. I think all members of the community, but specifically youth who are starting out. Student councillors are going to be leaving us as of tonight. This is their last meeting, so we want to take the opportunity to thank you. But we'd also like to invite you, Councillor Stone and Councillor Wisnik, back the next council meeting, and to give us an overview and highlights. So as a delegation, so you'll be sitting on that side of the table next time, to give us an update and overview of what your experience was over the last year on council. Would that be fair?
Yeah.
Okay. I think I'm putting you on the spot there, Councillor Stone, but so we'd like to invite you back, and not only that, we'd like to thank you at that time as well for your commitment to the Marathon Council table. So we'll get Councillor Wisnick that invitation as well, so she's aware of it. So that'd be good.
Yep.
Good, thank you. Okay, up next we have CEO report on revised schedule for August council meeting. Darryl.
All right, thank you, Your Worship. So in previous years, administration would bring a report to council with recommendations for scheduling summer meeting dates, as the municipality's procedural bylaw only requires one meeting in the months of July and August. Upon review of 2018 events, in particular the AMO conference, it is recommended that the August regular meeting of council scheduled for August the 20th be rescheduled to August the 27th. An advertisement will be placed in the Marathon Mercury and on the town's website notifying the public of the changes in meeting dates. Should any matter of urgency arise, a special meeting of council may be called at any time with 24 hours and the appropriate notice being provided to the public.
Okay.
Your options: A, change the council meeting schedule as follows from August 20th to the 27th, or do not reschedule the August meeting date of August the 20th. And your administration recommends that option A be selected and that the August 20th meeting date be rescheduled to August 27th. Thank you.
Thank you for that report. Do I have a motion here that council hereby accepts the attached report and recommendation and revised schedule for August council meeting, and that August 20th regular meeting of council be rescheduled to Monday, August 27th, and further that the public be notified accordingly of this policy change. Moved by Shingra, Councillor Lake. Any questions or omissions? Councillor Tuishi?
Yeah, if my recollection is correct, AMO is the 20th to the
22nd, I think.
The
19th to the
19th to the
22nd.
22nd.
19th to the 22nd. Okay, so if we're going on the 22nd, would it not be better for us to have it, say, before the AMO to shore up our delegation, or is that to be just done to the people who are attending?
So at our previous meeting, or pardon me, the 2 meetings ago, we had our AMO delegation on the agenda. And I've previously sent out an email to council, so we have a number of items we're submitting. So I'm happy to bring that back to the next council meeting for council's information from our delegation requests.
So for that situation, then you find it would be better for us to report how our meetings went on the 27th as opposed to a strategy on the 13th to say and how we're going to, what our delegation should entail.
Yeah, we won't know what the delegation list is until a week before the conference, so it'd be very difficult to schedule a strategy meeting. But certainly, we've been quite successful in the past with our requests, and I think that you know, if the opportunity arises before that to have that discussion, certainly we can bring it forward to council.
So my other question is, given that the election's in a couple of weeks, is there any indication that the House won't be sitting? So if there is a change in government, who do we meet with?
So it's very likely that it might not be ministers at the AMO conference, and that it could be ADMs or you know, DMs for that matter, you know, non-political staff. There's no indication. We have to have a request in by July the 3rd from an administrative perspective, and I guess until next week we really won't know what that process looks like, but certainly we'll follow it up and we'll bring it back to council once we know what that looks like.
So obviously then we'll be meeting with the non-political appointments of the administration of each specific ministry.
That's correct. The bureaucrats as opposed to the politicians.
And rarely that those individuals changes, you know, Councillor Boucher, there might be some movement, some shuffling within departments, but those ADMs and DMs are usually stay on regardless of the government change, political stripes. So we'll see what happens, but we have a list of delegations that we're looking at from the previous meeting, so we'll see what the success is in getting those. Good question, though. Thanks. Anything else? Okay. Call question, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay. Up next, we have a report on the 2018 tax ratios. Good evening, Chuck.
Evening, Mayor and Council. Section 308 of the Municipal Act requires that single-tiered municipalities pass a bylaw each year to establish the tax ratios for the taxation year. Tax ratios establish the relative tax burden for each property class. Council has the authority to adopt alternative ratios as long as they fall within the provincial range of fairness, which is 1.0 to 1.1 for multi-res, and all others is 0.6 to 1.1. Since our ratios fall outside the ranges of fairness, we can only move towards these range. The province has also provided another option in utilizing revenue-neutral transaction ratios to mitigate tax shifts amongst the classes because of reassessment. But the legislation has limited the tax ratio for the industrial class to 2.63. Therefore, the municipality cannot use the revenue-neutral ratio. A way to mitigate the impact of the reduction in tax revenue in the large industrial class will be discussed at the next meeting of council when tax rates will be established. So administration is proposing the following ratios. Residential class always stays at 1.1, but there will be a 2% increase compared to 2017, or $57,000 more in taxes from the residential class. Multi-res will stay at 1.1, which is a reduction in their taxes of 17%, or $31,000. The commercial and shopping centers both are the same at 1.25 and to stay the same, which would see a reduction in their taxes of $7,428. Parking lots and vacant land stays the same at 1.1, which is a reduction of $1,500. Landfill, which is only now one property, the ratio in 2017 was 1.15. I'm proposing to put it at 1.1, or a $346 reduction in taxes. The industrial class, keep it constant at 2.25, which is an increase of 4% or $3,000. Large industrial, which is only two property, the Barracks William Mine and the Marathon Pulps mill site, will stay the same at the maximum tax ratio legislated by the province of 2.63. That'll be 11% reduction in taxes from this class, or $103,000 in tax revenue. Other consideration is the effect of tax ratios on future economic development. Any potential businesses looking at investing in the town of Marathon will be analyzing the municipal tax environment. A high tax ratio could be viewed as a negative aspect. Changing tax ratios do not generate more revenue. It shifts the tax burden amongst the classes. Increasing the ratios will expose revenue to a higher risk of tax write-offs. So the options are to adopt bylaws 1927 and approve the tax ratios as presented, or accept the ratios with amendments. Administration is recommending that option A be selected, establishing the ratios as detailed in bylaw 1927.
Thank you for that report. I do have a motion in front of me that council hereby accepts the attached report and recommendation on 2018 tax ratios, and for that the appropriate bylaw be adopted later this evening, accepting the tax ratios of 2018. Moved by Councilor Lake, second by Councilor Fox. Questions? Councilor Lake.
Yeah, Chuck, I try to understand this, and my sense is in a small northern community where all the assessments are going down on industrial and commercial properties. I mean, it's technically true that changing ratios doesn't generate tax and revenue, it shifts burdens, but because of the assessment changes, that shift is happening. We're watching it happen, right? There's more and more going on to the residents.
Correct.
So we can't control assessment. So aren't ratios the one way that you can sort of mitigate that changing from one to the other?
Yes, that's why for the large industrial, for example, in 2017, we raised it from 2.25 to 2.63, but the province still wants to get its policies implemented, and they believe in lower taxes for industry to make this business-friendly province. So that's why that ratio for large industrial will stay the same at 2.63.
Given, and I understand that for municipalities in Southern Ontario where there are multiple companies moving in and there's that competition, our industries are generally tied to our resources. So it's not like we have companies coming in, setting up shop that aren't related to the resources that are here. So I don't know if it's a NOMA potential, but it's ridiculous to think that somebody like Bombardier that can go anywhere is the same as a mill or a mine. The gold is here. So if you're going to mine the gold, you can't take your business elsewhere. Tax is not the incentive. So it bothers me that the province sets that 2.63 when it clearly isn't meant for a resource-driven industry. And I don't know if NOMA can take that on, or...
So for Councillor Lake's information, the number one ask from AMO is to have local say. Provincial laws and regulatory standards need to be reflective of the diversity of Ontario's municipal governments.
Yeah.
That fits right in the area that you're considering in regards to those. Ratios should be reflective of Northern Ontario, Northwestern Ontario specifically, small rural northern communities with one industry, so we're not putting all the burden on ratepayers. When you got a city of Milton, Toronto, Mississauga, where you got thousands of industrial properties, you know, you can afford to have the 2.63, probably have 2.25, probably even have a 1.1. But we can't afford that, so that's one of the biggest asks from AMO.
I'm happy to hear that.
So AMO through NOMA, through Phenom, is asking the government to recognize that. Councillor Debussy.
Okay, so from my recollection here, as we approved the ratios, we're going to be roughly about $97,000 to $100,000 less in taxation revenue. Okay, that's because of the increase in the residential and the, I guess, small industrial.
It'll still be zero. It's just
The shifting.
$57,000 will be collected more from the residential class.
Yeah, but when you add up the rest, including the large industrial and the fact that we're taxing on paper but never collecting on the Marathon Pulp paper, or Marathon Pulp property, that is all accounted for in the budget that we tentatively approved, is it not?
And there was also considerations taken where council had wanted to limit the tax increase to the residential class to 2%.
Yeah. Okay.
And
But
luckily-
again, it's all been factored into our budget.
Yes.
So you were going to say luckily,
Luckily, we've seen a large decrease in OPP costing in 2018.
and we knew that going into the 2018 budget, that was our saving grace.
So that's helped us mitigate the drop in revenue from the large industrial
Yeah,
class.
and we know that from the reassessment of the Berwick site, that was a big impact from the overall decrease of about 5 million or roughly of decreased assessment on that site. Councillor Lake?
But the fact remains, the assessment issue, if we can only go up to 2.63 with large industrial, we're setting ourselves up for difficult years in the next decade, because assessments continually seem to go down for industry. So that pressure is going to build, and we're not going to have the OPP clawback to help us in coming years.
I think our treasurer is right in regards to the attraction to attract business to Ontario, is keeping the ratios down. What we have to work with is impact in regards to the assessed values of those properties. Because there's no way in God's real world that the Himlo Berwick site is only assessed at $18 million. If you're to rebuild that mine, you're talking $200 and $300 million, even with depreciated costs as you're going through the assessment, the process. It's really a joke. So we know that that's the area where I think we have to keep fighting on, is with impact, to get those assessments and those ratios of assessments proper.
And mentioned earlier, the thing we have to bring home to Berwick with our informal partnership is the recognition of
Employee
location.
That's a big one for us too, because we just lost another, you said at the onset of the year, $60,000 based on employee movement.
Well, that's the
All
only
in.
reason why assessment went down is because more assessment went outside of Marathon Manitowoc.
But that's where is that money going to, Chuck? Is it going back to the province or just not being paid anywhere? Okay, it's going poof. Okay.
Very financial,
Councillor Lake.
Would those numbers include sort of folks living in Beattigon? Because they're not technically in Marathon, and yet they use all the services of Marathon, something like recreation, right? The idea was that money from the Meta was supposed to fund our recreation programs, the infrastructure, the roads.
Meta was under the understanding that the region from Marathon, Manitowoc, White River, Pick Mobert, Pick River, that's where the locations were. So back in 2003, for example, there was 96% of their employees were living in those 5 communities.
Okay.
Now it's gone down to, again, I can't remember the number, 70%.
Okay, so that's the
But
difficulty.
it's kind of bogus too, because they say they have employees that live in Red Deer, Alberta.
Well, and no, but that is a fact, because what's happening today in the mining world, we're seeing more and more transient.
But it's saying, it's just like people that are working in Dubai right now. They're
They live in Marathon
Canadians,
or whatever, yeah.
but they're taking resources there.
Yeah.
So just thinking ahead, Your Worship, and it's an excellent point that Councillor Lake brings forward, is, you know, although it's a transient population and maybe doesn't got a permanent fixed address in Marathon, if they're transient living in accommodations in Marathon, they're utilizing our taxable services. So we have a Communities of Interest meeting Monday, and I would recommend to Council that this becomes one of our speaking points, to work with Barrick to get this situation rectified with the Ministry of Municipal Affairs.
So could you please make note on part of the agenda discussion so that we will have a copy of that, so it doesn't get slipped by?
And the problem was, or sorry, the issue was when Meta was discussed back in the 1980s, transient employees weren't a thought, right?
No, and then when we got challenged by Manitouwadge back in the 2000s in regards to the change of the Meta after the Newmont property went down, that's when we started seeing some changes, I think, in the movement of individuals, because it was
The the employee's residence is not defined very well.
That's what I
in
mean,
Meta.
yeah.
It just
We have
says,
to tighten that up in the definition, so if you're living in an apartment in Marathon and working
you'll
in
never
Hannibal-
get the province to change Meta because.
No,
the-
we don't want to touch
So
that.
all we have to
Yeah.
do is have some understanding between us, Manitouwadge, and Barrick.
Okay. Good? Everybody's good? Thank you. Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Carried, thank you. So up next, we have the report on the assessment management policy. Chuck.
Asset management policy, both the federal and the provincial
yes.
governments have made having an asset management plan contingent on being eligible for infrastructure grants. The town of Marathon has had a plan since 2013, but like many municipalities, is just a report card of the status of infrastructure at that time. The provincial government recognized that more was needed to pull municipalities into active asset management planning. Under the Infrastructure for Jobs and Prosperity Act 2015, the province issued Ontario Regulations 588. Section 4 of the regulation states that every municipality shall prepare its first strategic asset management policy by July 1st, 2019, and shall review and, if necessary, update it at least every 5 years. As an encouragement to get asset management planning underway, the federal government has arranged to have the Federation of Canadian Municipalities establish the Municipal Asset Management Program. Municipalities are eligible for a grant that is equal to the lesser of $50,000 or 80% of eligible expenditures. The town of Marathon was successful in obtaining a grant to conduct the following: develop an asset management policy, assess the maturity of current asset management planning, purchase work order management software, learn data collection protocols, conduct training workshops, and acquire asset management tools and concepts. The town of Marathon has been using citywide software from Public Sector Digest since 2019. Public Sector Digest has been an industry leader in developing asset management plans in Canada. They have drafted asset management policies for many municipal clients. Their recommended policy is structured to include most of the requirements listed in the Ontario regulation. Council agreed to apply for the Federation of Canadian Municipalities grant in its November 14th, 2017 meeting. The cost of the service, $65,000, and the funding, $50,000 from the grant and $15,000 from federal gas tax, are included in the current budget. So the options are to approve the attached policy 29, Strategic Asset Management Policy as presented, or approve the policy with amendments. Administration recommends that option A be selected and that the Town of Marathon Strategic Asset Management Policy number AD 29 be approved as presented and that a copy of this policy be included in the policy manual.
Thanks for that report. I do have a motion here that council hereby accepts the attached report and recommendation on asset management policy and that the council approves the Town of Marathon Strategic Asset Management Policy AD 0029 as presented. And further, that a copy of this policy be placed in the town's policy guideline and manual. Moved by Councilor Lake, second by Councilor Fox. Questions? Councilor Fox?
Just that, will the $50,000 cover that?
Yes,
It will?
yes.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Councilor Debussy?
Okay, so for $65,000, we have a policy, or we will have a policy in place. Is there any weight behind Regulation 588 to force municipalities to designate percentage of their budget, to have a plan that we adhere to, or is it still going to be a matter of councils looking at budgets and saying yes and no to each specific project, and or saying we can't do it alone, we have to wait for funding? Because the idea behind the asset management plan was to have a schedule where we would look at our infrastructure and have a plan of replacing it over the life expectancy of a plan. So nothing in the regulation, from my understanding, requires any municipality to spend any money as of right now.
Correct. The regulation is a multi-year approach. I think everything has to be in place by 2024. And so,
And then be reviewed every 5 years.
no, you're talking about the policy. No, the Ontario regulation says there's a multi steps in the approach to have an active asset management plan. And like I said, policy is the first one, and then the next one will have to be taking into risk, taking life cycle accounting and so forth.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? So as it states here in the first paragraph, update at least every 5 years for the municipal policy portion of it. I think as a business owner and as a past employee of a corporation, you have assets, you look and you plan every year for replacement of those assets. So this would be kind of just as an ongoing business model, updated annually, right? Not so much the policy, but the actual asset management plan.
That's totally different. Like I
Yeah.
said, the policy is just the first step. Asset management plan is, we have to get into that, and if we have no money, we can rightly say that we're gonna let our infrastructure
we can't
go.
buy new equipment or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But again, we've been fighting the government in regards to the official plan as well, to go from a 5-year to a 10-year, because this is another burden for, again, small northern remote communities with a single industry. So they keep putting more and more legislation on top of us, which, we can't really do. So this is something we have to be aware of. If this is something we shouldn't have to do unless it's something that we look at every 10 years. I know it's a new thing, but it's just a policy update.
And the policy it's nothing putting your feet to the fire either. It's a lot of feel-good stuff about,
Well,
this is how we're going to manage our assets.
But be rest assured, depending what happens in election and government changes and when the policies change, of course, obviously within the legislative process of the Ontario government. But the reality is that, you know what? At the end of the day, if they say you need this by 2024 and you don't have it, or even going through 19, we go ask for monies, you're going to say, where's your asset management plan? You're going to probably get put to the bottom of the pile compared to the municipalities who are up up to date with their asset management plan.
It's going to be legislated that you have to have it. Again, it doesn't have to be that every asset in your community is going to be
Replay.
Sure.
top quality.
No. Good? Okay,
Just-
Councilor Debussy?
Yeah, just one follow-up here. We've always been leaders, because when we were asked to do an asset management plan in 2006 or whatever it was, and to do mapping our infrastructure through GIS and stuff like that, we've been ahead of it. And we were under the impression that if we prioritized our projects and went for funding, that would be a factor. And it has yet to be a factor in any funding model that's come through. So again, we'll be ahead of the curve again, having designated projects. At what point do we pressure any level of government, or will the government pressure us because you have this asset management plan, now move forward on those projects?
Well, I guess the benefit is that we were able to FCM fund between the federal gas tax and the FCM contribution, 50 grand. It's not being funded locally, even though it is a benefit for us. So we have the plan, we have the policy put in place, so now we can go forward. So we're ahead of the game. Daryl?
So, Your Worship, we need to have this in place, obviously, as per the reg. But Marathon's practiced this for a long time. We've had a 10-year capital plan for as long as I can remember that gets reviewed annually by administration, reprioritized, and then brought to council as part of our budgeting process. So really what we're trying to do internally, again, another layer of reporting to the province, is marry asset management, which is much more in-depth, i.e. road conditions and age and type of pipes, et cetera, with our 10-year capital plan. So we actually have a product that is useful to the municipality for our planning purposes. But for the public's information, we've always had asset management. It's been our 10-year capital plan, which drives our budget decisions.
Good. Thank you for that. Anything? Call a question. All in favor? Carried. Thanks. Thanks for the reports, Chuck. I have a motion here that council hereby approve the following check runs for payment. Accounts payable for the amount of $467,094.92 and payroll in the amount of $143,679.88. Moved by Council Lake, second by Council Ingram. Any questions, errors, or omissions on that? Hearing none, call a question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. So I have a bylaw. That bylaw number 1927 being a bylaw to pass and set tax ratios to confirm the property classes and to set the tax reductions as prescribed property subclasses for the town of Marathon for the 2018 taxation year. Be read a first and second time this 28th day of May 2018. Councillor Lake and Councillor Zingra, any questions, errors, or omissions? Hearing none. I'll call a question. All in favor? Thank you. And of course, that bylaw number 1927 be read a third time and finally passes 28th day of May 2018. Moved by Councillor Debussy, second by Councillor Lake. Any questions, errors, or omissions? All in favor? Thank you. And I got a couple of announcements prior to adjournment, so Councillor Lake.
So this is an announcement that comes from our grade 11 English class. The powwow for 2018 is going to be June 11th. The grand entry is going to be at 11 a.m., which is our usual time. It's a Monday this year. It was the only time that the drums were available. So the invitation is to all of council to come to the grand entry and to be part of the powwow. In particular, we'd ask the mayor, if possible, to once again march in the municipal flag. This year's theme is the grade 11s choose it every year, and it's we're all in this together. So the theme is sort of that idea that one land, one community, one people. It should be a good time. There will be food vendors on site. The powwow will go from 11 to about 3 o'clock, and then there will be a community feast that you're invited to stay for. So the grade 11s have been working pretty hard, and they're pretty excited to invite mayor and council and administration.
Good, thank you. I just wanted to just give an update that as you know, the road construction started from basically the Nicolette area right down through to the end of Hemlo. So we just ask people to be conscious and careful and to be aware there's individuals standing on the road with flags to make sure everybody's taking proper notice of that. So that'll be going on for the next couple of months, so just be aware. And then prior to adjournment, we do want to let you know that we will go into a closed meeting of council to discuss a legal issue in regards to client privilege, including communications necessary for the purpose of conducting the municipal's business. So, with that being said, we will adjourn at the hour of 7:30 p.m. Moved by Councillor Lake, second by Councillor Ingwa. And thank you, and have a good night.